Hello, I'm Sabina Push and welcome back to Opera Lovers. As autumn draws in and the new opera season begins, I have an interview for you with an artist in the midst of a hectic and remarkably varied schedule. Darting from the BBC Proms in London to Welsh National Opera in Cardiff, from Handel to Puccini, Neal Davies is a baritone well known for the breadth of his repertoire and his success in both serious and comic roles. Neil Shustapal began his interview by asking Neal Davies about his broad repertoire.
Versatility must be your middle name. A repertoire from Rameau to Gilbert and Sullivan, opera to oratorio, lieder and everything else. How did you acquire such versatility?
I think it acquired me, really. I think if you've got a fairly flexible voice, voice with a good range, you just get asked to do all of these things. And you try things and you think, oh, well, I won't do that again. And then other things you think, well, actually, it's rather fun to be singing Bach cantatas one night and Gilbert and Sullivan or Dulcamara in L'Elisir d'Amore the next night.
Taking just two examples, it was Handel's Judas Maccabeus, I think, on Sunday night in Edinburgh.
Friday night in Edinburgh.
Friday night, was
it?
Right.
Friday night.
And tomorrow, Thursday, the 20th of August, at the Proms in Sampson.
Yeah.
And then into rehearsals for Sharpless in Madame Butterfly.
The next morning at 10:30.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
How do you manage that sort of schedule?
Well, I haven't done it yet, so I don't know. Going back to what you asked earlier, I think it is a question of keeping the voice flexible and also being able to take elements of the different repertoire and make it work for whatever you're singing. So I have a feeling that the clarity of how I sing when I'm singing Handel and Baroque repertoire is an advantage with getting the voice over a big Puccini orchestra out into a 2,000-seat auditorium. And likewise, the legato singing and the real sort of sense of bel canto singing is also very useful and can inform the Handel singing and the Baroque singing as well. I've never been one of these Baroque singers who's sort of picked at the music. I always like to try and sort of launch into it. I think it helps. I think it all helps each other.
At the Royal Academy, what particular area of study did you hook on to as a student?
Well, certainly not opera. My teacher at the Academy, Ken Bowen, was a renowned oratorio singer and concert singer. And I think really I thought that's where my future would have lain. And it wasn't until I went to Zurich, to the International Opera Studio at the Zurich Opera House, that I really thought this is something I want to do, but very much in conjunction with concert work. I never wanted to be one of those singers who had a repertoire of sort of 5 roles and I just trailed around the world singing the same things all the time. I thrive on the diversity of repertoire styles, language. So it was a fairly late decision.
You studied under one of Wales's greats, Dame Gwyneth Jones.
Yes.
What did you learn from her that you retain to this day?
An incredible amount. At the age I was when I went to Zurich, I was 23. I had no idea really about opera singing and the world of opera. I mean, I stayed with her and her family for a year whilst I was in Zurich, and just to see the level of commitment, the amount of hard work it takes to maintain a career that really was absolutely at its pinnacle then when I was there in the early 90s. It was an unbelievable lesson. I mean, apart from the vocal work we did, which was not a great deal because she wasn't home very much. I think she was probably home for about 10 days in total for the year, which for a career like that was a fairly normal pattern of work. We meet up. I saw her last year in Berlin. We met up for dinner. And I said, I think of you every time I start singing Beethoven 9, because I remember I'd finished living in Zurich and I was living in Germany on contract, and I'd had an offer to sing Beethoven 9th with Charles Mackerras at the Edinburgh Festival. And it was my first Beethoven 9. So I phoned up Gwyneth and said, okay, how do I do it? And she said, well, sing it to me. I said, well, what now? So we worked on the phone and we got it sorted out. I'll never forget it. That lesson on the telephone goes through my mind the split second before I launch into the O Freude at the beginning of the final movement.
Although your oratorio repertoire is vast, Handel seems to be particularly prominent. What is special to you about that composer?
When I sing Handel, I feel it's just doing my voice good. I feel the technical demands of it, the range is absolutely fits my voice. It's so wonderful to come back to it after having done a season of an opera or some big romantic repertoire, to come back then and to get the voice cleaned up, get it moving, get the coloratura going, get the breathing nice and low, and it's I mean, actually in the oratorios and in the operas, the bass parts are not the most interesting parts. He wrote far better music and far greater music for the mezzos than for the sopranos. But what there is, it's terrific stuff. I mean, you can't really get better than the arias in Messiah for a bass voice. I mean, it's wonderful stuff.
You sing all over the world. Is there any country apart from the UK which is special to you, and any orchestra with which you have a particular synergy?
I've done quite a lot of work with the Academy for Alte Musik in Berlin with René Jacobs. Actually, I jumped in to do a concert for them probably about 10 years ago, and they are the most terrific bunch of people, and they play this Baroque music with such passion. So, and last year I was there, we did a whole run of operas. We did Belshazzar staged at the Staatsoper in Berlin with the Academy for Alte Musik playing, and I'm going back again at the end of this year to do Agrippina with them. So probably I would say Germany and Berlin and the Academy.
Although you're shortly to sing Sharpless, you generally do not sing much verissimo opera. Is it because you're not really so keen on, say, Leoncavallo and Giordano, those sort of composers?
I've thought about that sort of repertoire, and it's not the repertoire that speaks to me terribly deeply. I love it as a visceral thrill to hear it, but I know there are plenty of other singers who sing it better than I do, and I think you need a specific type of voice to sing that sort of repertoire, and to be able to sing at that sort of volume and level for the duration of a whole role is a very different thing to maybe singing some loud passages during a particular role. I think it's like comparing a Handel singer with a Wagner singer. It's a different discipline, and it's not one I think is really my natural home.
But there is one role which I'm going to refer you to, because as well as singing so many serious roles, you're also known as a singer of good comic roles, and you've given the example of Dr. Dulcamara. Would you ever envisage singing Gianni Schicchi?
That I would like to sing. Yes, I would. I think give it maybe 10 years, and I would love to sing it. I think the comedic roles in Verismo, in that sort of time frame of Verismo opera, is a different kettle of fish to singing the big sort of bel canto stuff or the big dramatic baritone stuff. I don't have that sort of voice, but the character roles like Dulcamara and Schicchi would be definitely something I'll be looking forward to enjoying.
On a totally different tack, how do you relax, switch off completely from opera?
Well, I'm very fortunate. I live in a wonderful part of Somerset, right out in the countryside, so I'm a very keen walker and gardener, and generally sort of enjoying life outside the cities. I mean, I love visiting cities and I love being in London, but after the prom tomorrow night I will get in the car and drive home, and I must say, once the street lights disappear and you're onto the open road halfway across Salisbury Plain, I start thinking, right, this is a bit of downtime now.
Of your future plans, what do you consider the most exciting that's been lined up for you in, say, the next couple of years?
Well, I was very fortunate to sing in a new production of Pirates of Penzance in Chicago at the Lyric, with Andrew Davis conducting, and I am going back at the end of next year, 2010 into 2011, to do a new production of Mikado as Coco. So that again it's a completely different thing to singing serious Handel and Bach and Mozart. And I tried it out last year in Arizona with wonderful Stephanie Blythe, who will be my Katisha in Chicago, and we had an absolute ball, and we had some pretty nifty little dance routines sorted out. So hopefully they'll see the light of day again in Chicago. But that'll be very exciting to be there. It's a wonderful opera house, and Andrew Davies is so passionate about GNS. He takes it very seriously, but not too seriously, and he knows all the words as well, so it's he's a built-in prompter as well.
Neal, on that note, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity of meeting you and you speaking to the Opera Lovers audience, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, it's been a great pleasure.
If you're interested in seeing Neal Davies in performance, then he's currently starring as Sharpless in the Welsh National Opera's revival of their highly acclaimed production of Madame Butterfly, starring Amanda Rucroft, who we interviewed on Opera Lovers a year ago. If you want to find out more, you can click on the link on the podcast page. In the meantime, thanks for listening, and do join us again on Opera Lovers.